Yo YouTube, how you guys doing? And welcome back to another gameplay review video. If you guys have not seen this series, this is a series I do where I basically get footage that is submitted by viewers, by subscribers, by people among my community, and they submit their gameplay to me, and then I watch it. And then I talk about the things that do right, the things that do wrong, and I give any tips that I have along the way to try to help people, improve their game. Whether it's the actual person that submitted or whether it's just someone random watching. Hopefully there's going to be some sort of good advice in here for you. So we also have this little handy dandy doodler, so I can basically be like I could be like John Madden, I could really do like a play-by-play. So yeah, that's really what this is all about. So let's get started. We have a Pyramid Head game. This is a red rank game. Let me talk about the note that was left with this in my Discord. It got left with a note that said, rank 4, down to 5, Pyramid Head 1K. I'm new to Pyramid Head and have 0 perks I like on him, so I'm pretty much perkless here. Though I made some mistakes, I felt most of them weren't very significant. I feel like without any gen regression perks, that the game was just simply impossible to win. Gens flew so fast that I could do absolutely nothing about it. I don't know though, maybe I played that match like a total donk. So we'll see. I mean, you're definitely not wrong. We do start out every video by talking about your build, and right off the bat, dude, that's a yikers for sure. That's a very obvious, like, you don't have very many perks. Like none of them are even tier 3, and they're not exactly the best selections. And you also, hold on, let me figure out what these add-ons are exactly. Hold on a second. Okay, so the yellow add-on increases the duration of how long your trail stays on the ground. So when you leave a trail, it'll stay there a little bit longer before it disappears. And the gray one slightly increases the range of like your shockwave attack. So those are your add-ons. It's nothing too, like, I mean, really it doesn't matter too much as long as none of them are like game changing. But I don't think Pyramid Head really has any add-ons that are game changing. I think the range add-ons are probably the best. So honestly, your gray add-on is probably better than your yellow add-on. But I mean, they're both just okay. Like, they're not really anything special. Your perks are pretty again, you don't have very many perks on Pyramid Head, clearly. Like, you said it, as well as the fact that these are all tier 2, so I don't know what you have. I will say this much: if you have Sloppy Butcher, even Sloppy Butcher 1, I think Sloppy Butcher is better than every, like Sloppy Butcher is a part of my build whenever I play Pyramid Head, and I have every perk unlocked, so I have a choice from everything, and I still run Sloppy. So if you have Sloppy Butcher, even tier 1, I would highly suggest putting that into your build. The rest of these perks are pretty awful. Like, you have 2 perks that are his. Like, Trail of Torment is okay. Like, you can maybe get some value out of that. Deathbound is just one of those perks where, like, I feel like it's so difficult to really get any value of it. I just don't really think it's that good of a perk. Tinker can be okay sometimes, I guess. Like, it's not the worst perk to randomly run. And Deerstalker is also, like, I feel like all these 3 perks here are all, like, not great. But, like, maybe you can get some value out of them in some way. Like, I wouldn't call them good perks, but they're not horrible. And then this perk is just horrible. so that's your build. There's really nothing really good there. So I don't know if that's going to play a big part in why you lose. It's definitely possible that you're right, that maybe this game is just unwinnable because of your perks. Like, if these guys play mega efficiently, then maybe that'll be the case. But I guess we'll just have to see how you play, So let's just go and start right back up. Let's rewind a little bit. So we're on Blood Lodge. It looks like you're also on a controller, which is interesting to note. I don't really think that changes anything about. Okay, one thing I'm going to say right off the bat, your game looks hella dark, and I think it's because you're probably playing on ultra settings. Wait, if you're on console, wait a minute. If you're on console, you can't even change that, can you? I completely forgot because I just saw your own console. I'm pretty sure, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure on console I think you're like locked on to one setting, right? Because if you're on PC, you should absolutely switch your settings to low as opposed to ultra, because it makes the game brighter. I don't know why it's a thing, but it does. I don't know why the game isn't just brighter by default, but if you happen to be like on PC and you're playing like with a controller, then go in and change your settings to brighter. If you're on console and you're not able to, then I guess you're shit out of luck. But anyway, you spawn on Blood Lodge. You're gonna start heading across the map to look for people. You're gonna start laying down trails in paddle loops, which is okay. And just kind of throwing down trail. Oh, okay, you find somebody. No, that's not. No. No, that's wrong. That was a wrong way to play that. Okay, let's back this up. So you're walking up to this generator, and you know that someone's on it, right? Like, you hear it being worked on. The person working on that, like, they're not just gonna sit there and keep working on it, even while you're like running up to them and then also putting your sword on the ground. Like, this whole process takes like so long. Like, if you really thought they were just gonna sit there and like let you do this, like I don't understand why you thought this would work. Like, do you do you think that they're so stubborn that they're just like, yeah, fuck it, there's a killer walking up to me, yeah, he's about to use his power, but I don't care, man. This fucking generator that's 2% done, I need to stay on this bitch. Because like, no, they're gonna leave for sure. So all you really did right here is just give them way more distance. Instead of just like running up and then trying to see where they ran and chase after them, you go for like this useless shockwave attack that like has a 0% chance of landing, and then you also get put into like your little cooldown, and then they bolt the fuck out of here, and now they're gone. Now you gotta play catch up, you know? Now you gotta run after them when you could have been like right on their ass, you know? They're in shack. You just heard them in shack, but I guess you don't care because you saw this guy on a gen. All right. Yep, she went around here. There she. Your game is really dark, by the way. It is hard to see. You get a smack. All right, and then she's gonna run towards shack window. You can put your sword on the ground right now. You were really late on that. You were super late on that. You could have zoned right out of that window really easily. Like when you're running up to like a window or pallet like this, like again, I know like I almost debated not using this video because the quality is kind of bad, but like also there's not really a lot of good quality videos in my submissions right now. There's a window right here that you can clearly see. I mean, we can't clearly see it because the recording doesn't have the best quality, but you can clearly see it in game. Like this is a window. This is shack window. So if we're running up to this window, like it's very clear that she's gonna vault it. You need to put your sword on the ground like way before you do. Like you put your sword on the ground and then you just keep walking towards the window, and that basically zones her out, right? Like if you would have put your sword on the ground like right now, right? Like you see how long it took you? Like it took you it took you up until she was already there. Like, okay, when you're just running, you go 4.6 meters per second, okay? That's how fast you go. When your sword's in the ground, you're going 4.4. It barely slows you down. You still go pretty fucking fast with your sword in the ground. And keep in mind, survivor speed is 4.0. So like normally you have 0.6 like faster than survivors, but with your sword in the ground you have 0.4, so you have a little bit less like bonus speed, but you're still going a decent bit faster. So you can put your sword in the ground much sooner, and it's not really going to hurt you too much because you're still going pretty quick, you know? So that way, like if your sword like for instance right now, like you're not fully charged yet and she's about to vault. Like if your sword had already been in the ground like a second before, then right here she would have been fucked, right? Like you would have been able to throw out your shockwave right now while she's mid vault. It would have hit her. Or if she would have faked it, you could have picked your sword up off the ground and then chased her. Like that is like pyramid head play 101 right there. Like that's literally quintessential pyramid head play. Like that is like his main power. That's his main strength. That's the main thing that makes him. I mean, I usually put pyramid head at like my number 4 killer overall and like my top killers, because he can just zone you out of everything if you play him correctly. So already, you know, there's already some misplays happening. You do it kind of late. You throw out a shot. You do like, I will admit, this shockwave attempt was good because it was late and you like acknowledged it was late, and then you threw the shockwave slightly to the right to try to adjust for the fact that it was late. So I got to give you credit. That was a good attempt. Like, honestly, that was probably really close to landing. It's a shame that it didn't. Had you done it sooner, it would have been a guaranteed hit, though. You're putting trails all over the place to try to get them tormented. She's going to run away. All right, how you gonna play this? Your tinker goes off. You played that very weirdly, but it kind of worked somehow. So you're trying to not get 316. Honestly, yeah, good shit. Like that little weird thing you just did was much better than getting 316. So touche. You're gonna pick her up and hook her. You have a gem that's gonna be almost done soon. This is kind of loud. That music is very loud. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. Okay, the gen got done over there. This gen also has Tinker. You could activate your Trail of Torment, but they kind of can see you, so even right here. Okay, good shit. Well done. That's exactly what you need to do. You did it perfectly. If that Bill played a little bit better, he could have vaulted like beforehand, but you played that like that is French. Why do I always? This is like the third time that I almost said French kiss when I'm trying to say chef's kiss. What the hell is wrong with me? That was chef's kiss, perfect. Right here again. No. Okay, that ended up working, but I think you throwing out the shockwave there was actually a bad play. Because, okay, like, this is good, right? Like, he's coming up to the pallet, you put your sword on the ground. Now he's like, ah, fuck, what do I do? Because if he throws the pallet, then he's locked in place for like a whole second, and during that second, you can, you know, throw out the shockwave and down him. So, but then if he doesn't throw the pallet, see, right here, though, okay, this ended up working out, so, like, I know that this is probably going to sound like stupid advice because you're like, Tofu, what do you mean? He just got it down. But he could have easily juked this. Like, he could have very easily juked this. I think the much more safe play would have been just to pick your sword up off the ground and then just keep chasing him, right? And then when he comes back to the pallet again, take the angle slightly wide and then do the exact same thing. Stick your sword in the ground as he's about to get to the pallet. If he throws the pallet, hit him while he's stuck in his animation. If he doesn't throw the pallet, pick your sword up off the ground. You'll gain distance every single loop that you do with that, and he'll eventually have to either throw the pallet and need a shockwave, or you'll get a hit on him. Like, it's kind of like Doctor, how like Doctor can spam shocks while doing loops. It's almost the same thing. Like, you kind of zone him out every single time he gets to the pallet, and you can basically guarantee a hit. This is much more risky, although this is much more time efficient, right? Like this saved you a lot of time, like getting this down quicker, but it is very risky. Like, he could have juked that. He could have juked that really easily. And if he did juke that, then he would have bolted and he would have been gone. Like, you would have lost a lot of distance. So even though it worked out there, that's definitely, and I'm not even saying that was necessarily a bad play. I more just want to let you know that there's a less risky option, you know? I feel like taking risks as a killer is sometimes not good. Sometimes going for the safer play is good because, like, if you take one risk and then it fucks up, that can sometimes throw your whole game. You know what I mean? Like, killer is very, like, all about time efficiency. So if you have, like, a bad moment of time efficiency, that can sometimes, it can sometimes do you pretty dirty. So you hit her and she runs around the back. She's just running away, which is pretty much expected. That's basically how you... Here, I think it's kind of a waste to put your sword on the ground. Like, I don't like this. I don't like these, like, you're kind of just going for random... Okay, I'll say this much. If you're just wanting to have fun with Pyramid Head, like, if you're not really caring about performing well and you just want to have fun, then by all means, keep doing this playstyle, right? If you don't care about not killing people, like, if you're cool with having a 0k and, you know, or, like, not getting very many kills or whatever, then by all means, keep doing this. But for the sake of, because this is a fun way to play, I'll admit. Like, I love playing Pyramid Head this way, where you just kind of throw out shockwaves like crazy and try to get cool hits with it. But if you're actually trying to be efficient, and that's really more what this series is all about, is trying to teach you to be better, then this is really not how you want to play. Because you're going for, again, super risky, and, like, these don't even, like, this doesn't even have a very high percentage to land, right? Like, if I was going to guess, like, a percentage of chance of this landing, it would be super, it wouldn't even be, like, it would be less than half. Like, you're kind of just trying to predict where she's going and then throwing out a shockwave in her general direction and just praying that it lands, right? But, like, you're praying that, first off, you aim it correctly. Second off, that she continues going where you think she's going to go. Third off, that she doesn't juke and go some different way. It's just a very, like, it's not a very safe play. Like, it's not a very guaranteed hit, right? And also on top of that is when you miss it, you lose all this distance, right? You like practically come to a stop while throwing out the shockwave, then you go into a cooldown. And then she gets a bunch of distance. I mean, she didn't really use her distance very well, so this is kind of a bad example. Like, if she was smart, she would have just got the fuck out of there. She kind of played that horribly. But in general, that's not a very good play. Because a smart survivor there would just bolt away from you and just run across the map. And you're just going to lose distance every single time you go for one of those and miss. Luckily, this guy fucked up super hard. So you do get the down on him basically for free. And these guys are just slamming gens, dude. They are slamming the jennies. The trail near the hook is just going to disappear. That was kind of pointless. The trails actually disappear if they're near a hook or a generator or an exit gate. So, there's trails that you put down. Oh, there's Deathbound, though. There's trails that you put down near the hook were kind of pointless. I gotta say. They healed over here. One of them's oblivious. Can't really find them. Looking to locker. I would get back to the gens. You're kind of in like a corner of the map where there's no gens. It was okay to come look for him real quick, but you gotta get back to where the gens are, like ASAP. Okay, you find a... Is that a Jake? It's hard to tell. A Dwight? You find a Dwight? What are you gonna do here? Sword and ground? Okay, there you go. I mean, good. You get the general idea. I think you get the general concept behind the zoning. I think you just are, like, lacking practice. Like, you did say that you're newer to Pyramid Head, so I gotta say, if, like, for you being new, you definitely, like, you for the most part get it, right? Like, you're doing a really good job of doing the thing where you're like putting your sword in the ground as they come up to you know, pallets and windows. Something I'm going to comment on, and this isn't. I've been wanting to make a comment about this, but I'm very reluctant to do it because I don't necessarily think it's bad, but I think it's worth mentioning. Okay, you have been doing this nonstop, where like every time you come up to a pallet, you like leave a small trail like under the pallet, right? Like you like do this every single time, and okay, while I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to do, because I think getting people tormented is good, right? Like you're doing that as like a time investment so that later on, if somebody runs there and steps in it, then they'll be tormented, then you can use that to your advantage. But truth be honestly, truth be told, I don't think torment is that important on Pyramid Head. Like it's nice sometimes, but there's a lot of times that you down someone like and they're tormented and you don't even want to cage them. Like a lot of the times you want to just hook them and not cage them. And if we don't see an example of that throughout this video, then I'll talk about that at the end since you're talking about being a new Pyramid Head player. So just keep that in mind. If we don't talk about that throughout the whole review, at the very end of the review, I'll talk about when you should hook people and when you should cage them. But either way, I don't think torment is like that important. Like I don't think you should be investing time that you could be spending pressuring the map, like laying traps of your trail. I don't think it's worth it. I think it's much more valuable to get downs and actually pressure generators than it is to like leave trails on pallet loops. And don't get me wrong, you haven't gone really far out of your way. So like I don't think it's too bad the way you're doing it, because you're not really going super far out of your way to do it. You're kind of just doing it passively, like as you go near pallets and stuff. But even still, it is still a slight time investment. So like arguably I would say that it hasn't really gotten you any value yet, and you have been taking some kind of a time investment for it, which is not really great, you know? That was a really good turn. That was a really good turn to find this guy. But then you swung super early for some reason, and you're gonna let him have this pallet. Okay, that was like perfect, except you just missed. Like this is just gonna come with practice. But you played this almost perfectly. Like, okay, well, you played this horribly. Like this was horrible. You swung way too early here, and he just kind of had enough distance that you didn't swing, and then that lets him get to a pallet. So that was terrible. Like that was, I would not recommend doing that ever again. But like as far as what happens up here, this is really good. Like you put your sword in, and then he drops a pallet, and literally if you would have released M1, okay, I think you needed to put your sword on the ground a little bit sooner, and also if you would have just aimed a little bit more to the left, this would have landed. But it was a little bit far to the right, and it was like a little bit too late, like just a hair too late. It was so close to being on time, but it was just a little bit too late. But that is how you want to play pallets and windows. Like you have the idea of it. I think you're just kind of not practice. Like I just don't think you know the timing yet, you know? So anyway, you down him, and well, sorry, you don't down him. You whiff on him, and now you got him at this pallet. He's doing a little back and forth mind game. You're doing the same thing here, but even that was kind of late. Like had he vaulted, that would have been too late. There you go. Perfect. Fantastic. Very well done. Very good hit. You did just see someone to your left, so oh, and there's someone in front of you too. Okay, this would have been a good time to cage. So this is a good time to talk about it. Let's back it up a little bit. So while you were chasing him up here, wait, I thought we saw somebody. Did we not see somebody at some point? Was I making that up? Wait. I could have sworn we saw somebody. Hold on a second. Hold on. Where were we? Yeah, that guy right there to the right. Like you saw that guy running kind of like to the gen area that you were going, right? Like you saw that guy on the right of your screen, and he was running up this way. So you know there was someone nearby, you know? And on top of that, when you walk up to this guy, you see scratch marks like under your feet. Like look, you like see scratch marks like all over the place right here. So you know that someone's nearby. Like you should have already had an idea that someone was nearby because you saw them running up this way. But now that you see scratch marks, you know for a fact this is when it's a really good time to use your cage. This is when you want to cage him. This is when you want to cage that motherfucker. Okay, let me quickly explain when it's worth it to cage and when it's worth it to not. Okay, say you're on a map, right? And you down somebody right here, right? And you don't know, you either A, don't know where the survivors are, or B, say if you do know where they are and you know that they're nowhere near you, right? Like say if one survivor's here, a second survivor's here, and a third survivor's here, and you down someone in this corner, it's definitely not worth it to cage them then, ever. because the way the cages work is it sends them to the farthest possible chest spawn. That's how cages work. Like, cages spawns share the same spawns as chest spawns. So whatever the furthest possible chest spawn on the map is where they'll go. So, like, for instance, in this scenario, if you cage this person, they would spawn like down here. Like, they would instantly get caged like right here, right? And then that's like right by their teammates. So instead of picking them up and hooking them right here on this hook and forcing these guys to run across the map to unhook them, instead, you're literally just delivering the survivor, right? You're just like, here you go, here's a survivor. And then they're like, yay, let me unhook for free, all right. And then you have to run your ass over, right? Like, you want to make them spend time running. Whereas the opposite situation would be something like this, right? Where, like, you just down this guy. Like, say we're, like, right here on the map, right? Like, you just down this guy. There's a hook right here. But then there's a survivor right here. We don't know where the other two people are. But you know for a fact that there's a survivor right here. Now you want to cage this guy to send him over here. And you want to, like, hopefully they don't have a teammate right there. And then you also have an easy chase to take, right? Like, you're not really wasting any time. You send this guy to a cage, and then you immediately start doing another chase, and then that'll make the teammates have to go save this guy, and then bam, three people are pressured just like that, instantly. Like, instant pressure on 3 survivors. So basically, like, any situation that you would normally slug, you want to cage, and also, like, if there's no survivors near you, you don't ever want to cage, which is why I think Infectious Fright is a really good perk on Pyramid Head. Just gonna throw that out there. I know you don't have very many perks, but when you start actually unlocking perks, Infectious Fright is a very, very, very solid perk on this killer. Because if Infectious Fright goes off and you know that there's survivors around, that's how that's when you know that you do want to cage. I don't know what the hell these guys are doing. I don't know what in the fuck. I'm not sure what you're doing either. You kind of lost track of them. No, where are you going? The bill was still there. Unless this is the bill. Well, there was another guy there, wasn't there? I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell because of the bad quality. I couldn't tell if it was just the bill. Yeah, I was going to say, I thought there was another guy there. So you kind of just let him have that unhook for free, which is kind of unfortunate. What the fuck is happening? What is happening? I can barely even tell what's happening. See, this is, I think, a bad time to cage. Because there's no one actually close to you. I mean, honestly, this isn't really a horrible time to cage because actually you got to get back to that gen before it gets done because that's the last gen. So, you know what? I take it back. That's actually not a bad time to cage. It would have been a bad time to cage if it wasn't for the fact that this gen was almost done. But you're not going to make it there anyway, and then they finish the gen, and then, yeah. I can definitely see how this turns into a 1K now because these guys definitely got these gens done, like, very quickly. They got them done very fast, like. You're gonna chase this Kate. You see her over here. Okay, right here, bro. I mean, honestly, I want to give you shit for this again because I think this is a risky play, but it's working for you really well. Like, sometimes it works for you well. Sometimes, like, again, like, it worked well here, but it also didn't work in other scenarios. And I just don't think it's a good habit to get into. What I was gonna say about how to play this palette, because as a killer, you can kind of control the direction that you get looped, right? So because this palette is like a truck, right? It's like a gigantic rectangle with like a palette here, right? So you can control which way you loop because whichever way you go, the survivor's just gonna mirror you, right? So if you go this way, like if you go clockwise, she'll also go clockwise. If you go counterclockwise, like right now you're going counterclockwise, that forces her to also go counterclockwise. So you can kind of control the direction that you go as a killer. And on loops like this, like here, let me just draw this. Like, this is basically the loop. There's like 2 rectangles, right? And then there's like a palette right here. So if you're looping this way, it's really awkward to try to put your sword in the ground and then also turn to face the palette if you're coming from like this angle, right? Like if you're coming like around here as Pyramid Head and you're wanting to put your sword in the ground to zone this out, you kind of have to like go out and then turn in, which is really awkward and gives them a lot of distance. So if you can instead force the chase this way, that way when you're running up to the pallet, you're going at the pallet at like a perfect angle for you to just put your sword in the ground and then zone them out. So ideally on a pallet like this, you want to make sure that you chase them the correct way. That basically puts them in a better position for you to set up like a zone with your power. Although, with that being said, you said fuck all of that. I'm just gonna throw out a shockwave and get the hit, which I mean, honestly, touche. I do want to stress that if these survivors were a little bit better at like playing against Pyramid Head and a little bit better at like juking, they might be watching out for this, and they might like juke and make you miss this, and making you miss this might punish you really hard because then you go into cooldown and they get to run away and get a bunch of distance. So it's a risky play, right? It's a high risk, high reward play. Like you got the reward here because you did downer with it, and so like again, like well done. But I feel like the fact that you keep going for these high risk plays is gonna make your it's gonna make your games either like really dominant or really awful. You know what I mean? Like I feel like most of your games are either like you're either gonna dominate or you're gonna get dominated. It seems like, because it's very like if you fuck up too many of those, you lose so much time. Put your sword on the ground. Put your sword on the ground. Oh, you didn't zone him. You should have zoned him. I think you thought that you had enough distance to get a hit and you didn't. Like this is what I'm talking about. Like that's kind of what I mean. Like all you did right there was lose distance. That was just so unnecessary. Like why bother? And now he's gone. Like now he's in Narnia. Like that's a perfect example of why I want you to not do that kind of stuff. Because all that does is like it's a really risky play. Like sure, if you would have gotten the hit, it would have been cool, and it also would have saved you time that you spent chasing after him to get the hit. But if you don't get the hit, then they just get a bunch of distance, you know. And this poor Dwight it doesn't even look like he knows what he's doing. He's just kind of holding W. He's not even looking behind him. He's just running. He's just running places. All he knows where the door is, though. So he's heading towards the door. I'm sure his team's there. So, yeah, these guys are all going to get out. Yep. There they all are. Okay. Bill? Does he have tenacity? Damn, he got out of there with the quickness. That Bill almost threw, dude. I don't know what the hell he was doing. Okay, and then I'm guessing the last guy's just gonna get out. I mean, it literally says 1K. I don't think there's anything really important to say here, right? Yeah, you see him at the gate and then he gets out. So that's really it. Just for the sake of looking, let's see what we have on the end screen. Actually, it's gonna end before we get there. Yeah, it ends. Feels bad. Feels bad. Yeah, it doesn't actually get to the end game. Okay, so there's a bit to say about this. I will say that these survivors definitely did play like efficiently. Like this is one of those teams where it feels really bad to lose to these guys, because like not trying to be mean, but they didn't really seem like they knew what the fuck they were doing. You know what I mean? Like that Dwight like wasn't even looking behind him when he was running away. Like they didn't really seem like they were like super good at looping. They didn't really feel like they like were good in like the chase part of the game. They kind of just felt like they weren't afraid to do gens. Really, I think that's the only difference. Like people, like honestly, this is something I've been thinking about a lot, and honestly, it's something that people have been saying for a long time too. I think the only difference between survivors at red ranks and survivors at like lower ranks is literally just how much they do gens. Like I think as long as a team is willing to do gens and like not fucking stealth around the map and crouch walking corners randomly, like as long as people are spending their time doing gens, then bam, they're instantly so much harder to beat and they instantly become red ranks, right? And that's when you can get punished so hard for just making a few mistakes, because if they're actually just actively working on gens, you have to make like very few mistakes. Like that's really all it takes to be like a rank 1 survivor, is just do gens. You get 4 people together that just do gens, as long as they aren't like terrified of gears and fucking wires, then you're probably going to be rank 1. And that's kind of what happened here. Like these guys didn't seem especially good. Like the Kate seemed okay. But they didn't seem like especially amazing at the game or anything. They kind of just did gens. But you definitely did make a lot of mistakes. Like you definitely said, okay, like you said in the submission that you don't think there was any, I think you said significant mistakes was your exact wording, right? Hold on a second. Yeah, you said I made some mistakes. I felt most of them weren't very significant, which I can definitely agree with. I don't think you did like one major game throw. I don't think there was like one time in this video where you did something so bad that I was like, oh, this one thing threw the whole game away. Like you would have won if it wasn't for this one thing. I don't think that happened, but I think it was a combination of all the little mistakes that did make you lose. Because I think there was a lot of little mistakes. Like if it was just 1 or 2 little mistakes, then that's okay. But this was a ton of little mistakes. I will say that I think your build definitely didn't help you too. Like the fact that these guys were playing like really efficiently and you didn't really have a good build to, you know, work with. Like, did you get any value out of any of these perks? You got baited by Deathbound one time where like someone screamed that you didn't even find them. So like if anything, that hurt you more than it helped you, because it kind of like baited you to run to the other side of the map and then you couldn't even find anybody. So if anything, Deathbound literally hurt you. Deerstalker did nothing at all. So You got no value out of that because you never slugged anybody. Trail Torment, you never kicked a gen, so you didn't get any value out of that. Tinker sort of gave you value. I think it kind of helped you get the down like towards the beginning, and it also just kind of gave you an idea of where survivors are. So really, it kind of felt like you were running one perk. It felt like you were running one perk, and that one perk was Tinker. So like, yeah, I definitely think your build has a lot to do with it, but you definitely made some mistakes. Truthfully, I think the only thing that I have for you as far as feedback is I think you should go for less risky hits. I think the risky. Okay, let me go a little bit further in depth on this. Okay, it seems like you know what you're doing as far as zoning. I know you're gonna explain this, but when it comes to zoning, you definitely need to like learn the timings. You need to figure out how long it takes from when you click M2 to initially put your sword on the ground. Well, I guess for you it's not M2, it's L2. Like you need to figure out how long it takes between pressing L2 to like initially put your sword on the ground and then hitting this button to throw out the shockwave, right? Like this like amount of time investment, you need to figure out how much that is. That way, when you're like when someone's running up to a window like this, you can like actually time it much better. Because again, like you were a little bit late here. I think you definitely get the general idea behind it. Like you did it a couple more times throughout the game, where you definitely get the idea behind it, and that's really good. That's a really big step to like playing Pyramid Head, is at least understanding what to do. And I think you already know that, which is really, really good. So like at this point, I think you just need to practice, which you're going to do. So I'm already confident that you're going to be really good at Pyramid Head in the future, especially considering you said that you were new to him whenever you, I mean, your perks show that you're new to him, and you also said you're new to him. So I think you're definitely going to be a good Pyramid Head player, like give it enough time, but you definitely already understand this, which is good. But I will say the only like major feedback I want to give you is the shockwaves. Like again, like in a situation like this, it's a lot less, it's a little bit more understandable to go for it here, because at least you have line of sight of the survivor, right? Like you can see exactly what they're doing, and you kind of just go for it, right? You're just like, well, let's throw it out and hope for the best. Even this kind of play, I don't necessarily agree with. I think it would be better overall to go for the less risky play of just picking your sword up off the ground. Because again, if you get survivors that are better, like against survivors like these guys who aren't really good in chase, it works really well, right? Like this Bill is just gonna hold W. He's not gonna juke. He's just gonna run, and then you're just gonna be able to predict him and get the hit, right? So like against people like this, it works fine. But keep in mind, if you get like, I don't know, if you get one of those like Dia shirt Nias in your game, you know, that's like clicking flashlights at you and 360 and, you know, actually like knows how to juke, this kind of shit is not going to work. Like they're going to be able to read this like a book, and they're like they're just going to juke it. And every time that they juke it, you're going to lose a ton of distance. So I'll say that this is okay. Like this kind of play is okay if you think the survivor you're playing is a potato, right? Like if you think the person you're chasing is like a bit of a spud, then by all means go for plays like this, but only go for plays like this when you can have when you have line of sight of them. Like situations like right here where you can literally see him the whole time. There's other situations where you went for this where you couldn't see him the whole time, and those were really, really bad. Like for instance, like this very first shockwave that you tried to do, like right off the bat. Like what are you even doing here, right? Like that one was pretty bad. There was some other ones too where you like, I mean there was one like right here, right? Again, like this one could have got punished more than it did. Like this one should have gotten. Wait, no, it was. I think I'm actually too far behind. Okay, yeah, I'm dumb. It was this one. It was the same area of the map and the same survivor. It was just a little bit too early. Like this shockwave, for instance, is just like. I get what you're going for, because again, like you see the survivors just running this way, so you're like, okay, if I lead it, you're like doing the calculations in your head, you know, like you're figuring out the circumference of the circle and like finding the perfect angle of triangular attack, and you know you're trying to get them like perfectly in stride. But again, the fact that you can't see them, like you don't know what they're doing. Like she might have like went around this way, she might have like went towards the window. You're not really exactly sure what she's doing, so you're just taking a wild guess. And wild guesses are not good, especially whenever missing is punished, you know? And again, this didn't punish you that bad because she kind of went down right afterwards, but like it could have punished you really bad. Like if the survivor was better and knew what she was doing, she would have ran the fuck away after she saw that you missed a shockwave, and you would have lost a lot of distance that you would have then had to make up by chasing after, and it would have been really, really bad. So I think these are generally not good plays. I know you did another one at like the very end too. Like this was like way at the very end that you did it. But just in general, I just think that those are some pretty bad plays. I think it was right here, right? Yeah, like right here you did it too. Like it's another one where you're just kind of Well, I think you also just aimed this one badly. Like, I think you just like jerked to the left a little bit too much. I think this one maybe would have landed if you aimed it correctly. But again, that's why it's risky. Like you're kind of just trying to throw it out generally where you think they're going. And again, if you're just wanting to have fun, if you just want to have fun and you don't care about killing people, by all means, keep going for these because these are really fun. Like it feels really good to land them and it's really fun. So if you care more about having fun than winning, then by all means go nuts. But if you want to win, then like this generally isn't good. Like it's too high risk. The reward isn't even that good either because you can literally just chase them down and then zone them out of every single pallet and window that they get to, right? Like what you're doing by doing this is you're giving them distance. You either land the hit or you don't and then they get distance. Whereas if you just don't go for this and you just keep chasing them, you'll get a literal guaranteed hit in like 10 seconds. Not even 10 seconds, probably like 5 seconds. Like you just keep running after them and then you get close enough and then once you get close enough you just stick your sword on the ground no matter where they go and they literally can't use any windows or pallets or anything. They just die because if they try to use any windows or pallets you just zone them out with your sword. Like that's the thing about Pyramid Head is you basically get guaranteed hits as long as you get close enough. Like as long as you get close enough and as long as you understand the timings of his sword and as long as you like generally know maps and you know where windows and pallets are so you can kind of preemptively in advance put your sword on the ground. Like as long as you know all these things you'll get literal guaranteed hits as long as you get close enough. So going for these like risky hits, it's just it's pointless whenever you can get a guaranteed hit, you know? So I think that's the big advice I can give you is just to not go for these. As far as this exact game goes, you were kind of fucked here. Like you basically needed to play this like I think there was a lot of wasted time. There's a lot of unfortunate things that happened. Like I think Deathbound baited you at one point. Like at one point your Deathbound went off. Like right here and like it kind of baited you because you like saw a bubble over there and this is like keep in mind that there's no gens over here so like all the gens are behind you, all the objectives are behind you, right? And you had Deathbound activate like in the area where there's nothing out here, there's nothing of value out there for you, right? But you had Deathbound activate, so you're like, oh, I gotta go chase him because I know there's someone there, you know? And then this ends up wasting a lot of your time, right? Like this is really unfortunate. Like there's just no pressure on anybody right now. You check a locker because you have no idea where they are, but this is all just wasting time, you know? This is all just wasted time. Then you see somebody running away, but like at this point you already committed so much time over here, like it was already so much wasted time. So like this was a pretty unfortunate play, but like, was this really bad play? Like, I think this is just a product of having shitty perks like Deathbound, you know? I just don't think you should be running Deathbound. I think it's a bad perk. But yeah, I think had you been a little bit better with zoning people, like I think there was a lot of instances where you could have had downs quicker, but you just like, you're just not practiced enough at Pyramid Head, you know? Like I think if you get a little bit more practice at like zoning people out of windows and pallets, and you get those downs a little bit quicker, then I think this game could have easily been not a 4K. Or sorry, it could have easily been a 4K, even with the perks you have. Like, even with the perk setup you have, I think if you had just got the downs faster, because keep in mind, like, that's why gens get done. If people always wonder, like, oh, why do gens get done so fast? It's because you're not downing people fast enough. That's literally always the answer. The answer to stopping gens from getting done is literally always downing survivors faster. Now, downing survivors faster isn't always the easiest thing in the world, especially if you're playing a shitty killer, like a killer that doesn't have a very good chase game, like Wraith or something. But you're playing fucking Pyramid Head, dude. You're Pyramid Head. You have one of the best chases in the game. So, like, for you, there's really no excuse other than just poor play, which, again, is understandable because you're newer to Pyramid Head, so I don't really blame you. But, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say this game definitely wasn't unwinnable. I think this game was definitely winnable. These guys were horrible in chase. So, had you played your chase a little bit better and got downs, like, more consistently and a little bit quicker, you definitely could have won even with your shit perks. But, you know, considering the fact that you were learning and these guys played efficiently, this game went pretty much the way I thought it would go. And there's really nothing. I don't think that you're like, okay, I'll put it this way. You definitely know what you're doing. So I think given enough time, you're going to end up getting there. Like, I think if you just keep grinding, like follow the advice I gave you in this video and just keep grinding and you'll definitely get there. You'll get to a spot where you're just wrecking shit with Pyramid Head. That's all I have. I think I'm going in circles. I've hit the official part of the gameplay review video where I start going in circles and repeating myself. So I think that's a good time to call it quits. Thank you guys so much for watching this. Thank you so much for submitting this. I really enjoyed reviewing it. These are really fun to do. If you guys want to submit your own footage, we have a channel in Discord called Gameplay Review Submissions. It's towards the bottom of my Discord. Feel free to join it. The link to the Discord is down below. Make sure to check the pinned messages before you submit. There's a little like pin icon at the top of Discord. So when you're on the channel, click on that pin and it'll give you a little like guidelines of rules before you submit. Make sure to read those guidelines before you submit, but feel free to submit footage yourself if you guys are interested in getting your games reviewed. Thank you guys so much for watching this. Like the video as well if you guys enjoyed it. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel because I'm uploading kind of daily. I'm trying to upload daily as long as, you know, I can, as long as I'm mentally able to. And also stop on my live stream on Twitch 6 nights a week over at twitch.tv/OhTofu. Feel free to stop by and say hello. And this is the longest goodbye ever. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm out of here. See ya. Take care. See ya. I'm out of here. See ya. See you later. See ya.